as you all know, I always open up the Torah, especially on the Shabbat. Anytime you read the Torah, just to let you know, we should bless the Holy One of Israel at any time, because it's not just words. These are not just words that we're hearing. These are the sayings and of the living Elohim, right? The King of the universe. So when we come to Him, we have to understand that we have to show some respect and show some honor, something greater than ourselves, right? So we're coming here to show that to Him. So I'll open up with a blessing of the Torah. It says, Berakut et Yahweh di Hamburak, the Baruch Yahweh di Hamburak the La Lam Wayed, Baruch Ata Yahweh the Elohenu de Malach Halam, Asher Bekarel Vanu de Mikola Ha-Amayim, the Venatan Lenu de Et Torah To, Baruch Ata Yahweh, the Nothain Aha Torah, Baruch Ata Yahweh the Elohenu Malach Halam, Asher Natan Lanu, the Torah the Vimet the Wekaye, the Olam, the Nata the Batokino, Baruch Ata Yahweh, the Nothain Aha Torah. And that is to say, blessed are you, Yahweh. You're the blessed one. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the blessed one for all eternity. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our Elohim. You are the King of the universe. And you've selected us from all the peoples, and you've given us His Torah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the giver of the Torah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our Elohim, the King of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth and He planted eternal life within us. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the giver of the Torah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Blessed be the Elohim, the powerful one of Avraham, of Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We bless Him and we honor Him today on this wonderful day, which is set apart, called the Shabbat. Hallelujah. This day is different than any other day. It's different in all respects. It's different because it was a day that He set apart after He did all of His work. He says, I want to give this day to the children of Israel. I want to give this day to the children of Israel. For what? Why do I want to give it to them? Why would I want them to know about this day? Because this day is reflective, okay? It's reflective of something that I want to share with you, since he has me on it right quick. Let me see. Let's go right here, and I'm going to show you something about this in particular day that, just a reminder, a lot of us may have already known it, but it's just good to kind of always just remember this, okay? So in the book of Exodus, chapter number 31, verse number 13, Yah says this, starting in verse number 12. Yahweh said to Moshe, what did He say to him? He said, tell the people of Israel, you are to observe my Shabbats, okay? Not my Shabbat, Shabbats, plural, there's plural there. For this is a sign between me and you through all your generations, so that you would know that I am Yahweh, who sets you apart for me. That's why we keep the Shabbats, because we're being set apart for Him, okay? All of His Shabbats, all of them, because it's a sign, it's an oath between us. Just like Yah gave the sign of circumcision to Abraham and all of his sons and descendants to say that I am your Elohim, okay? Now we know that if the Shabbats is a sign, okay, and the sign is that you will know what? That I am Yahweh. That's number one. That's number one, that I am. So you will know that I am Yahweh, number one. And guess what? And since I'm Yahweh, I'm the one who Yahweh sets you, Israel, apart from me. Therefore, because of this, you are to keep my Shabbat. That means you are to guard what I said, okay? Guard my Shabbat. Guard it, meaning you prepare for it. You find a way to not work or do anything on this day that violates it, because it is set apart for you. So if you do this, because they're mine, if you do these, then you know that you're set apart. I set it apart for you. It's for you. That you know that you're for me. Everyone who treats it as ordinary, like it's just a regular day and every day is the same, like they say in Christianity, shall be put to death. Okay, that's what's going to happen. That's not a suggestion. That is what they call the reality. You will be put to death if you treat this day ordinary. This is Yah talking. Okay, for whoever does any work on it is to be cut off from his people. That's why you have 6 days to get your work done, but on the seventh day is the Shabbat. It's for complete rest and is set apart for Yahweh. Set apart. Okay. Whoever does any work on the day of the Shabbat must be put to death. The people of Israel, and I'm going to give us some relief here because I know everyone's like, what? The people of Israel to keep the Shabbat. You're to guard the Shabbat, to do it. Okay. Observe here means do, okay, with your hands, because you're supposed to do something with your hands on this day. Restrain them. And only your hands. What do you use to move your hands? You use your mind to move your hands. So the Shabbat, before it hits your hands, it starts somewhere. It starts in your mind. Okay. But you're supposed to guard the Shabbat, which is guard your what you think, and from you doing anything through all your generations as a perpetual covenant. Perpetual means forever. It is a sign between me and the people of Israel until they get in exile. No, it's forever. Okay, because in 6 days, Yahweh made the Shamayim, the heaven and the earth. But on the seventh day, he stopped working and he rested. He rested. And when he had finished speaking with Moshe on Mount Sinai, Yahweh gave him 2 tablets of the testimony, tablets of stone inscribed by the finger of Elohim. Okay. So when this was being said, Moshe is up on the mountain. And these are the words that Yah said to him. Okay. Before he found out that the children of Israel had now created a God to worship. This is what he said. Okay. So that's how important this day is. This day is super important. Okay. Which brings me to our next area that we need to go to. And feel free at any time to ask any questions, because this is about what Yah's intentions are for us. Okay. Is what his intentions are for us. His intentions for us is, doing what they call the Torah portion. Okay. I've shared this before, but I'll continue to share it every time we do a lesson. What you see here is all the Torah portions that are in the Torah. Okay. They're called Torah portions because they're divisions within the scroll. Okay. The Torah wasn't just 5 different books. There were 5 different books and split up into, different binders and stuff. It was one scroll, a continuous scroll. Okay. That when Moshe finished writing it, he rolled it up and he gave it to the priest, which we're going to find out today. And he gave it to him. And the Torah portions that we do, because it's about education. We want to find out what it is that Yah is telling us and how to maneuver and live our lives. This is why we're trying to come back to our mindset, because we're on a cycle. Okay. We're on a cycle. So when you look at the Torah portions, basically what it is, it's a cycle. Okay. And we go through this cycle every single year. It is a day-by-day process. Okay. So day by day, we go through this. And so we start in the book of Bereshith, which is in the beginning, Shemot. These are all the Hebrew names, Vayikra, Bamidbar, and Davarim. Okay. And in each one of these portions of the scroll, these names mean something. It's a story. Okay. So Bereshith is in the beginning. Shemot means the names. Vayikra means and he called, and Bamidbar means in the wilderness. And then Davarim means the words. Okay. So in the wilderness, he spoke all these words. In the beginning, the names he called in the wilderness, and he spoke these words. So all of this belongs as an heritage. This is an inheritance, by the way. So if you're looking for anything that God wanted to give to you, this is what he's given to us. And a lot of people don't want this. Okay, they don't want this. This is what Yah gave to us. So we read these in cycles. Okay, so right now we've been in a cycle, and we're all the way down here to we're in Lake right here, and he went. We're in this part right here, and then we have Ha'azanu left, and then we have after the following week Wazavoth the Habaraka. Right, which is the blessing. Okay, the blessing that he's going to give before he passes away and he dies. And then after we finish this, we're going to go back and begin our cycle again here at Bereshith. And then we're going to go to Noach, and we're going to keep going through it every week. Every week we go through this every week. Okay, every day. And after you go through this cycle several different times, you're going to pick up more information every time you go through the cycle. I mention this is because right now we're in an end of a cycle. We're coming to the end of our cycle. Okay. Lake is right before we get to the Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement is going to be during this week here. It's next week, which we're going to talk about. And then after that, you're going to be in the blessing. Okay. Which then will be following for Sukkot. And then that's the end. It's interesting that the Sukkot falls at the end of the cycle. And what does it mean? The festival of Sukkot, which they call the Feast of Tabernacles, has to do with the idea of the gathering of everything that was left at the harvest. Like you got to go in and take the harvest. This is a gathering of everything. So you've been working this whole year. So you start the beginning of the year. Okay, and then you go and you work all through the whole entire year till you get to your end, and that's Sukkot. Sukkot is the last festival of the ingathering of all the fruits and the labor that you've been doing. So what is Yah trying to show us? Agriculture is directly connected to the Torah portion. It's like you're going through your cycles, okay? You're going through your cycles, okay? Is there a time to sow? Yes. Is there a time to reap? Yes. Is there a time to let the land rest? Yes, there is, okay? So that's the way that the Torah is. It's based on cycles, right? So if we look at it, this is a harvest time right here. We're about to harvest. Everything that we've been doing, we're going to harvest. Well, when does the year begin? Well, the year begins right here. The year for us begins right here at Bo. And why would I say that? Because in Exodus chapter number 12, Yah tells you this is the beginning of years for you. Okay. So if this is and that's what they call the springtime. Okay. So right there, you'll be reading, check this out. I'm laughing because I'm full of joy this morning. You're going to be reading this part of the Torah during the springtime. Yeah. Okay. This time right here is the fall season, the autumn season. Right here. You're going to your fall season. And right in between here, you got your summer. Okay. And then in this other part, you're leaving, you're still in your fall a little bit right here because your fall season. And then all of a sudden you'll go into your winter. Okay. When things die. And that will probably be around this time. Okay. Yeah, it is. You're going to go through a fall and then you're going to go in your winter season. That's how it's going to happen. That's the Torah. That's how beautiful it is. But no one will ever tell us this because they don't want you to get connected to your cycles. Everything has a cycle. It's about growth. It's about development. All right. So if you're just getting on board and you're going to hear the fall and the harvest, then your hands of the work of your hands that you've been doing all this time that you've been doing, excuse right here, all this time, that's all the work. You see, you got to put in work. You got to put in time in order to reap something at the end of the cycle. And that's what Yah's intentions are for his people, is to reap something. Right now, only thing that you and I can reap is this. This is all we can reap right now. And the reason being is because when he did give us the abundance of all things, we weren't satisfied. And that's in Deuteronomy chapter number 28, verse number 46 and 47. When you had the abundance of all things, you were never happy. So what I'm doing is I take it all away from you because you didn't know what the priority is. The priority is this. You can't have anything without this. You won't inherit nothing if you don't have this. You can't get any rain for the land without this. Period. You won't have any blessing without this. Your children will not be able to continue if they don't have any food. I'm trying to teach you that you need this in order to survive. I gave you this, and I gave the sun and the moon and the stars and the clouds Torah. I gave Torah to the earth to bring forth what it needs at its seasons. That's a Torah. I'm in a covenant with, I'm in more covenants than you even know. I made a covenant with the sun and the moon and the stars that they're going to shine and they're going to do what I asked them to do. They haven't broken the covenant, but you guys have broken the covenant. And out of all the people on the face of the earth, I chose you to give these words to, so you can honor them and keep them and teach them to your children. That's why I gave it to you, because this is your inheritance. This is what I want to give to you. As a result of the promises I made to your fathers. Yes, someone had a question? As a result of me giving this to you, your fathers are doing what I said, I promised them to always take care of you by giving you the land that I promised them as an inheritance to you because of their obedience to me. Therefore, I said, I'll give you descendants and I'll give them a land and I will be their Elohim. That's the contract that and the covenant and the promise that I made with your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The covenant that I made with you, you descendants of these people, is I gave you this Torah. They go together. Okay. You can't have one without the other because you're all the same family. Okay. But I wanted to work with you differently because you're different than your father, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And the reason why you're different is because of your roots and where you come from. I know what's inside of you. I know that you're a stiff-necked people. I know that you need to be guided, and I know that you need to be led, and I know that you need to be taught. That's why I've given you my Torah, and that's why I've spoken to you so I can give you my words to lead you to where the direction I want you to go, because I've called you into a service for me, because I want you to help me. Okay? Not because I need you, it's because I chose you to help me. Out of all the people on the face of the earth, I want you to help me do what I'm asking you to do. That's why I've called you to be my servant. So you could do something for me that I need to be done. What I'm looking to do is to bring the world back to me. And I want to do it through you. And because I chose you to be the servant of me, then I want you to follow what I say. I want to tell you that I loved your ancestors. Therefore, I'm going to keep my promise that I made to them. I want to share with you all the bountifulness and the blessings of the land that I gave, that I promised to your ancestors. And they lived there at one point. The descendants of those ancestors did. And I told them, if you follow what I'm saying, then you get to live here as long as you want, just as long as you do what I'm asking you. But for some reason or another, they decided that they didn't want to do that. They decided that they didn't want to listen to what I said. And as a result of not listening to what I said, then we have to go into what I call phase number 2, which is I gave you a covenant and also attached to that covenant, which they call an oath. And the oath of the covenant is a promise. If you do something against what I'm saying, then I have to take action. And that's what I've done. Our Torah portion this week has been talking about Moshe going, and is also talking about the children of Israel about to go into the land. Moshe is 120 years old. I'm going to do a quick recap. He's 120 years old. He says it on this day. The whole time he was speaking to them, he never told them I'm 120 years old until the time he's ready to die. That means that he's letting them know. He says, I am 100 years old today. It was his birthday. So he's sharing with them his birthday, and he's letting them know that, he says, I can't get around any longer. And moreover, Yahweh said to me, you will not cross this yard. And the reason why he's not crossing the yard is because he did not sanctify Yahweh in the presence of the people. And therefore, he's now going to commission YHWH to go on his behalf. Yahweh will do exactly what he said he will do to these nations. He told them that he wanted them to be strong, be bold, and don't be afraid, because Yahweh is going with you. And he asked them to remember to do everything that I've commanded you to do. Why? Because Yah has said, he swore to your ancestors that he would give them this land to inherit it. Verse number 8, he will go ahead of you, and he will neither fail you nor abandon you. So don't be afraid and disheartened. Because at this time, prior to this, their ancestors, their fathers were afraid of going in. They were disheartened, and they didn't believe that Yah was with them. So what Moshe did is, after he encouraged them, he wrote the Torah down, all of the Torah, and he gave it to the priests and who were the Leviim from the family of Levi, and who carried the Ark of the Covenant, and to all the leaders. And Moshe gave them this orders. Okay, this is the most important part. This is the end. So he's telling them what I need you to do. Verse number 10 is very critical for all Israel to understand. Moshe gave these orders, this command to them at the end of every 7 years. Okay, the festival of Sukkot in the year of Shemitah. Okay, well, as I briefly told you earlier, that the Feast of Sukkot is a time of ingathering. On this feast right here, this festival, because it is a festival, they would gather in all of the fruits and the vegetables, and they would gather all the things off the trees, and then they would take this and make an offering to Yah, along with, a whole bunch of offerings. They would have to give, over this period of 7 days, they would give 70 bulls. Okay. They also would give 14 rams over a 7-day period, and they would give 98 lambs over a 7-day period. The 8th day, and this is not including the daily offerings, and they would have to give a goat every day for a sin offering. Okay, for every day for the 7 days. And of course, they would reconvene on the 8th day, and they would have an offering for that. So a lot was given. So when we talk about Yahweh's festivals, they're appointed times. Okay, so the reason why he's choosing this festival is interesting. He didn't say at the end of 7 years when we come to the Day of Atonement. He says when you come to the Feast of Sukkot at the end of 7 years, the Shemitah. And we're going to talk about the Shemitah. The Shemitah is a time of a release. Okay, that's where you would have to release a Hebrew slave, that your brother who's enslaved to you. You have to release them in the 7-year period. You have to let them go. Okay, if you have someone had some debts that they owed you, you have to let that go. Okay, you have to release it. You have to release them. Okay, and he said, don't let your eye be wicked. And if your brother asks you for something and you're like 1 year away from the Shemitah, you'd be like, because you're tripping because you only have like, a couple of months, then you got to release them. They're asking you for something in the 6th year. You'd be like, well, next year's the Shemitah. There's no possible way. I'm only going to get like a year out of this person, and that's it. He said, don't be like that. Okay. It's a time of release. Okay. And this is important. The reason why he's mentioning the Shemitah here is because it has to do with releasing a Hebrew. Hebrews get released in the Shemitah. Okay. And they get released here. They get released in Sukkot. Okay, so today we're going to need some interactiveness because I'm going to ask some questions. This is not a monologue. You are my brothers and sisters. And as your brother, that's why I name myself Akika, because I am your brother. I am the wall that stands between you and the rest of the enemies. And I'm here to share with you what Yah is saying to us through the Torah. And I'm not saying this from a Western mindset. My mindset has actually been changed. I'm turning my mind to the East and starting thinking Eastern and putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Okay. So this is a time of gathering. And we're going to see if everyone can catch this. Okay. So here's Sukkot is about gathering, and he's going to prove it. Okay. To gathering everything that's been worked for. Okay. So, and listen, you're going to gather. He says, when all Israel have come to appear in the presence of Yahweh at the place that he will choose, you will read this Torah, okay, before all Israel so that they can hear it. And what is he talking about reading the whole entire Torah? The Torah here are the instructions. That's what a Torah is. A Torah is an instruction. It's a guidance, okay? So you have to go and you'll be instructed at this time. He's going to tell us the reason why, because Israel is a people who have, this is a reason, if it's about showing up in the presence of Yahweh every 7 years, and here's a reason why it's every 7 years, okay, is the fact that Yah wants to go over the instructions with all Israel. And so he wants us to assemble the people, the men, the women, the little ones, the foreigners who are in your town so that they can hear, learn, and fear. Those are the 3 elements that I want to share with you, okay, about the Torah. The Torah, and it has to be in this time of Sukkot and the time of Shemitah, the time of release, the time of gathering, and the time of release. So you need to hear, they're going to hear it, they're going to learn it, and then they're going to fear. That's the order. That's why you have to gather all the people, because that's why I'm asking you to assemble. Assemble here means to gather, just like you would do all the fruits and vegetables in the time of Sukkot. Okay. Shemitah is to release. Okay. So I need you to gather all the people. That includes the foreigners who are living with you. And then so they would hear, learn, and fear. Here is called Shema. Okay. Learn is lamadanu, to lamad. And you know what the lamad is. I've showed it to you before, but we'll bring it up again. Can you guys see my screen? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so Shema means to listen and hear, okay? This lamed right here has to do with the shepherd staff, because that's the name of the word for learning. They take, what they've done is they take the ancient Hebrew word called lam, and then they put lamad on it, and that's the name for learning, okay? That means this word right here means to learn, and you learn by this shepherd staff. That's why it's a lamed, which represents this letter L. These are equal. In English, it's a L, and in Hebrew, it's this lamed, which is lamed is the shepherd staff. So it's a matter of guidance, and it's a matter of authority, okay? And it's used as a sign to what? to guide the people, the sheep, because people are sheep. Yah says that my people are sheep. And then you can find that in Ezekiel chapter number 34 in the last verse. Okay, he says, my people are sheep. So the idea that Yah wants us to understand is that you have to have leadership and authority in your life, and you need to be led, okay, by a leader. Therefore, you're under leadership. Okay, so you got to make sure that when you're talking to someone, especially today being in exile, that the person that you're choosing to be a leader to you, not the leader, but a leader, the one who has authority, or you got to make sure that the staff that they have in their hand is the one that Yah gave to them, like Yah gave Moshe. The way that you'll know that that leader is the one that Yah has chosen is that in particular leader will always lead you to what? To the Torah. They won't tell you anything about what they think. They'll tell you what the Torah says, because that's the only thing that we can be led by. Because see, this picture graph is a shepherd's staff and is used to direct the sheep. The sheep need to be directed. You need direction in your life. You need to be pushed. Sometimes you're being pushed and you're being pulled. It's not easy, and it's also to defend and protect. Protect who? The sheep. That's what it's about. So and that's why they use this letter Lamed in the Hebrew language to always mean something about a different direction, something moving, something towards in a different direction, something or someone. But you can't do that except by the means of authority. Okay. So that's what it really means. All right. So when we see this letter Lamed in the Hebrew, we understand that it means to be led. You have to be led by Yah. Okay. And let's see. What verse was that? Where is it at? Okay, the time of release, the place he chooses, the Torah, and the hearing. And okay, so listen, as I said in verse number 12, remember I talked about gathering. That's what hakal is. They got the word assemble, but it means to gather. So you have to cause them to be gathered to what? The people. You got to gather the people. And it's going to be the men, the Ha'anashim, the Hanashim, and the Hataf, which are the children, and the Wageraka, the strangers, those who are strangers among you. And so who are in your Bishareka, in your gates, so that they may hear, which is right here, Shema, Yishma, the Yishma'u, they will hear and they will learn. Now listen, here's that letter Lamed. Okay, right here. And here's for Lamad right here, the L, the M, and D. Those are the Hebrew characters, the Lamed, the Mem, and the Dalet. And it means to learn. Okay, so Lamadani or Lamadanu here, Lamadu meaning them, plural, that they will learn. Okay, because if they don't ever hear the Torah, they'll never learn the Torah. And thereby, if they don't hear it and they don't learn it, then they will never fear. They'll never fear Yah. Okay. When we talk about fearing Yahweh, it's a matter of they have a Hebrew word called Yerah. Okay. And here it is in right here called Yoreh. They call it Yahweh. Let me point it right here for you. This same root that you have here for fear, just to kind of tie you into it, called Yahweh. Yahweh has to do with the idea of to learn. Fear there, right? It's just like, well, what kind of fear? Are you talking about being terrified? What are you saying? Is it about just being scared, or is it about, what kind of fear are you talking about? Does anybody want to add to that before I move on? What do you guys think the fear is?
I think it's that fear of having, knowing that, Yahweh is one. He's the only one. And,
Yes,
yeah.
he is the only one, right? So Well, when we look at it, right, let's get a proper definition. That's a great, what you just said was awesome, to be honest with you. Um, let's look at the Hebraic understanding, because we're a Hebrew people, right? We're a man, I got something wrong with this. Let me see, Strong's. This one is 1227. Okay. Let me go right here and pull it up just right quick. 1227. All right, I'm gonna show you the Hebrew word on it. Okay, can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this word is the root of the word Yahweh. Okay, Yahweh means to fear. Okay, but what it means in Hebrew is that the action of it is throwing something. So you know off the top, if you had to throw something, you had to use your what? You got to use your hand. All right. And the abstract, meaning when they try to put it together and say, well, we know what the action is. We know that the yod here means a hand. It's a picture of a hand. And we know that the next letter is a picture of a person's head, which is a picture of a man's head. When you combine these, it means the hand of a man. The hand of a man. That's what yar means. Okay. And then it says the hand of the man is used for throwing. And then, a flowing of water in the river, like how rivers flow by water being pushed or thrown, but also to a throwing of the finger to show the direction to walk. It's a pointer. Okay. That's what yar means. So the word fear has its root right here, because Yahweh has its root in a finger to show a direction to walk or live. It's a pointer. I'm going to point you to, hey, follow this way. Go here. Go this direction right here. Okay. And it also means the throwing of an arrow, the throw down of water of the rain, right? So it also has a connection with rivers because it has to do with water. It also has an idea of that which, when a person gets afraid, the insides start flowing like a river. You know how you get scared and you feel your insides start flowing, right? 143. Let me see. 143. Let me see. And here, here you go. Throwing, Yara. To throw what? Rain. The throwing of the finger. That's what it's like. The throwing of the finger. Like when there's rain, the rain is like throwing of the finger. Right? Because the rain comes down in a different direction. So to show a direction to walk or to live. Again, you're seeing that again. It's about throwing of the finger, like throwing down rain. Now, here's the interesting part of the word fear. Fear has also so it has a meaning of throwing. It also has the second meaning of rain. And the third is to teach. So fear literally has its root in pointing a finger. Fear actually has to do with teaching, because you're going to point the way one is to walk in life. Teaching is the direction one is to take in life. And so teaching has to do with learning, right? So the more that we begin to fear Yah is the more that we begin to take the direction that he's telling us that we should walk in our lives. Also, too, the Torah has the idea of this as well. Okay, because that's where Torah comes from. Torah comes from the idea of rain, because Yah says if you don't listen to what I'm telling you, because listen to this. And I almost forgot. Look at this. That's spelled in Hebrew, the Tav, the O, the R, the what? The A, and the H right here. Torah. Torah. That's teaching. Torah, the direction one is to take in life. So Yah is using Torah as a pointer to show you what direction you should take in your life. Yahweh uses Torah. It has the same root, the Yod and the Resh right here, to tell you that if you don't do what I tell you, you won't get the rain when you're supposed to get the rain. By the way, we thought that the early rain and the latter rain, we think the latter rain is at the end of the year and the early rain is in spring. And that's not true. It's just the reverse. The first rains that you and I are to get are going to be in the fall season. That's the first rain. The second rain, latter rain, is in the springtime when it's the last rain as you get before things start growing. Do you understand? I'll say it again. We've been taught that the first rains that we get is at the beginning of our year in spring. That's not the first rain in the Hebrew. The first rain that Yah looks at is the one that's in the fall, because he's getting the soil prepared and ready to receive the seed. You see, because you got to go through cycles. So what you do is, after you finish harvesting everything, you prepare the land again and then plant your seeds. They'll sit there and they'll germinate and they'll go through the winter. They'll be under the dead of winter. And then by the time the spring comes, they'll start coming up out of the ground. And then Yah says, well, I need that one last boost. So let's give them that latter rain. And that last little boost of rain, boom, it'll come in the springtime. And then when you're ready to come through, you'll pull the first fruits out and be like, yeah. And then you'll go through it. It'll be enough water in the ground that it'll make it and last all the way through summer. So you can come back to Sukkot and do the harvest. That's Yah's way. So when we talk about Yah coming to get us, or Yah's decision about how things are going to work for Israel, it's going to work in that cycle. So the Moedims that you and I are participating in are pictures of what he's going to do for us. Okay. But you need to understand the Torah in order to understand the instructions and the teachings that can lead you to these ideas. You see, because if you're on the well, listen, the Torah has to do with direction. If you don't have the Torah, you have no direction. You're lost. You won't be able to do the things that Yah's asking you to do. If you don't want the Torah part of your life, you're not going to have a good life. You're going to have a horrible life. You're going to have a horrible life because you're not going in the direction you're supposed to be going in. And if you choose not to listen to the Torah, you're not going to be able to have anything, because the Torah gives you the instructions on how to get ready to harvest. You understand? This is not, we can make it up as we go along. And I'll get to a situation, and then when I get there, then I'll figure it out. That's not what Yah's talking about. He wants you to learn how to fear him. He wants you to understand what teaching is. Teaching and learning about him. About who? Listen to this. If you look right here, it tells you that, and so that he would hear, you have to listen. You have to, so that you may learn and fear. And it tells you this thing right here is called a sign. It is what they call in Hebrew a direct object marker. It is an arrow pointing you to wherever these verbs are. Whatever verbs were said, is saying every verb, I'm going to point you to where the verb is supposed to be going. So I need you to listen to Yahweh. What's the next verb? I need you to learn about Yahweh and what else? And so you can fear who? Yahweh. A direct object marker, which is his letter, the Aleph and the Tav, tells you that this is what I'm pointing to, Yahweh. So what is the Torah for? The Torah is to lead you in the direction, to point you to do these things. Number one, listen to Yahweh, hear and obey Yahweh. Second, so you can learn about Yahweh. And third, so you can fear Yahweh. That's why you're coming to class. Because you're coming somewhere that you're being fed, so you're being taught on how to listen to Yahweh, what he says, so you can learn about Yahweh. That way you can fear Yahweh. You cannot fear Yahweh if you don't do the Torah. You will never fear him. You'll never be open to instructions from Yah. Because fearing Yahweh is not just being shaken and afraid in your insides, but you're going to get that when he comes. But it's talking about leading you to be taught about him. If our purpose of living is to just, have a job, get married, have kids, go to work, get a retirement, eat a couple of dinners out to lunch and dinner, and go to Denny's for breakfast and drive a car that you got to put maintenance on, and that's your life, you're done. You're done. You don't exist for those things. And the only reason why you exist is to do these three things: to listen, to learn, and to fear the Holy One, the King of the universe. That's not your priority. If you put your girlfriend over Yahweh, you're done. If you put your job over Yahweh, you're done. You put your family over Yahweh, you're done. You put your money above Yahweh, you're done. You put your health above Yahweh, you're done. If you're like the person who got to go to the gym and get big muscles or have a physique, or you want to work on your butt so your butt can look bigger so you can take nice pictures on Facebook and do all that kind of stuff and show people how fit you are, you're done. You want to show the six pack, you're finished. If we're talking about anything except for what he's talking about, you're done. That's what it is. Because the ultimate goal for Israel is to do these three things. That's why Yah has given us the Torah. That's why. It's not for any other reason. It's just to learn about Yah and to fear him. Okay. He says, you're Elohim, and to what? The Shemaru and La Asot. I need you not only, because La Asot is to observe, meaning to do it with your hands and to guard. This right here, Shemaru, you need to guard. Like you know, like a police officer or an armored car. You need to take up a weapon and you need to guard. And here's another direct object marker. This is another, what they would call an arrow. So guess what? Here's a verb again, the action, and here's another action. Okay. And it's telling you, and this call infinitive is forever. Just like your eyes blink forever, you need to observe and do this, all of the words of the HaTorah, of this Torah. That's why I bless the Torah. Because if you don't take this, you're not going to have any instructions. You're not going to know where to go. Because the Torah is leading you and teaching you and pointing the finger. And so the only reason why we didn't hear the Torah from Yah directly is because our ancestors were afraid of hearing his voice. So they decided to have it in written format and have men teach it to them because they didn't want to hear from Yah anymore. So Yah says, because you don't want to hear from me anymore, I'll have a man talk to you about what I said. And every time he says something, he has to come in my name and he has to try to tell you to turn back to me. Okay. Now I need you to do this in verse number 13. Oh, what happened? Computer's tripping. 13. And Uvanehem, winning in their children who have not known it. Yada'u. Why? Because the 7 years, every time you turn around, you're having more kids. So every time you have a cycle of children, Yah says you need to bring your kids to me. That's why the Shemitah is at every 7 years. Because those of your children who have not known it, they'll be able to get it every fresh year. So for example, you just had a baby, you bring the baby to go hear the Torah. When they're not even 1 year old, by the time they're 7, they'll get the recap again. By the time they're 14, they'll get it again. And by the time they get it, at 21, they'll get it. And by the time they're, in every 7 years. So it's not like you get it and then you're done from it. You're in this. You're in this, you and your family, for every generation. Yah's ensuring every 7 years you need to go over this. You, the men, the women, the children, and the people who is hanging out with you. Everybody's going to get this. As long as you live, you're going to receive this. So if you're not used to this, get used to it. Yah is telling us you will always have direction in your life. If you think you've obtained it because you got a college degree or you own a business or you've been a millionaire, you think the Torah stops because you have some measure of success? No, it's going to always be there so that you will yada'u, that you will know, have intimacy with me, and know. Yada means to know, that they will yishma'u, and that they may learn, and that they may fear. This is what Israel is always going to have. So if we know this as his people, and we understand this,
Shema, Lamad, and Yara is always, so, and Yada is always should be part of our vernacular. Those are the different aspects of our lives, that these things need to be the pinnacles and the pillars of our understanding of foundation as a family. The house of Israel is a family, and everybody in this family is going to listen. They're going to learn. They're going to fear, and they're going to know who Yahweh is. And it's not going to happen because you sit down on one Shabbat and figure I'm at Shabbat and I'm going to sleep all day. No, you read your Torah portions every single day, because at the end of the 7 years, you'll be like, okay, we've been doing this for 7 years. We're getting better and we're getting better and we're getting better. And we have to secure the future for our children. This is Yah's gift to the generations to come. You're only going to be able to do it for so long. As you notice, Moshe says, I'm 120 years old. I got to go. I got to go lay down and go to sleep with my fathers. All of this has to do with Yah, because it has to do with the eth right here. Is letting you know who this belongs to, your Elohim. Your fearing and everything is pointed directly to him. But if you don't want to learn about Yahweh, you don't want to learn the language. You just want to have fun. You want to go out with your friends all the time. You want to watch videos all the time. You want to dance. You want to sing. You want to say how blessed you are. But you don't want to learn this. See? So the day, as he says, as long as you live in the Ha'adamah, on the face of the earth, which you cross in to go to Yarden Hazeh, right? The hard Yarden, which they were going into the land to possess the Lorishta. Then Yah goes on to talk about how these people are supposed to prepare to go into this land. And he lets him know that, hey, Moshe's days for him dying is about to come. You know, come, Yehoshua, you're going to be the salvation. You're going to bring these people into the land of Israel. But oddly enough, Yahweh calls Moshe and Aharon to the tent of meeting. Okay. And he says this. And Wayomer, Yahweh, and Yahweh, he said to Moshe, behold, Hinaka. Hinaka means to behold. I need you to open your eyes and look, right? Behold, I'm showing you something. The Shokav, you're going to rest with your fathers. Okay, so Yah doesn't call just death. He says Shokav, you're going to rest. You're going to lie down. You're going to lie down with them. Okay, the Shokav means to lie down. You're going to go to rest with them. Okay, and when you lay down, okay, when you take your rest, Waquam, they're going to rise. The people, because Waquam means rise. They're going to lift themselves up. Who? These people. And they're going to Hazeh, these people right here are going to do this. And what are they going to do? They're going to wazana. They're going to be a harlot, and they're going to play a prostitution. That's called the zina. Okay. Zina is someone, the idea for zina is to be a harlot, the one who, it has its root in this za right here, which is a cutting instrument, which I should show you, so you can understand what prostitution really is. The prostitution in which, let me see here. Prostitution, zina, let me show you. The root has to do with this idea right here. The zan is the first letter that you have in zina. If you notice, all I got to do to make the zina is to put an A and an H right here. That's all I had to do, but the original zan. So you know that this goes together. That this word that I just wrote out right here is called harlotry, prostitution. Okay. And it means to spread out. She's going to open her legs and she's going to spread out herself to whoever wants to come and be with her, like spreading seed on the ground. That's what she's going to do. She said, I'm open. I'm available. Whoever wants to plant, come and plant. Okay. And so the picture graph is a letter is of some type of agricultural implement, similar to a mattock or a plow. Okay. When this person is doing this, which Israel is the whore, the meanings of this letter are harvest. And if you notice, I told you that Sukkot is a time of what? Sukkot is a time of harvest. Okay. So look at the agricultural terms that Yah is using to let Israel know what time it is. Okay. Or crop, as this tool is used for harvesting, for food, as from the harvest, to cut. When someone creates idolatry, or to be broad, as meaning abroad from abroad of a cutting instrument, or abroad in terms of how much land you have to cut or how much land you have to go through. Okay. So let's look at this right quick. When Yah talks about this cut, this instrument, which I'm going to show you in a second, he's saying that when you create zanah or become a harlot, you're cutting. You're cutting. You're cutting. Cutting what? Idolatry cuts the relationship off. And you guess what you do when you cut the relationship off? You cut off the opportunity for a new generation of seeds to come. You cut off the family. When you become a harlot, the sons that are supposed to be born to the father of the initial husband is cut off, and then you bear sons or children from harlotry, which we got in the book of Hosea. Okay, you're cutting off your family line. That's what you're going to do. You're going to cut your family. If I go out and I commit adultery, because a man can do it too, and I become a whore, I'm going to cut off my family. I'm cutting it off. I'm cutting my wife off. I'm cutting my children off. I'm cutting everything off. I'm cutting off the opportunity for harvest and crop, the crop, to see the benefits of my labor that I put into my family. If I go out and commit adultery, guess what happens? I lose my family. And everything that I work for during the time, I'm going to harvest some bad stuff now. You see? So the tool that Yah is talking about that's being used is this tool. It's shaped. And this is where you get your shape called zanah, is shaped like that. Okay. So this is the shape to what? For the harvest. It's cutting. For what? Harvesting, for crops. It's an agricultural implement. But that letter has to do with what? Cutting. Which this has to do with idolatry, harlotry. This is Israel's #1 problem. She's a prostitute. She likes to be broad. She likes to spread herself out. And because she likes to spread out, Yah says, you like to spread yourself out? Then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to scatter you. I'm going to spread you now. I'm going to spread you to what? The 4 corners of the earth. And with the gods. So he says in 16, and let's put it in English so we won't get lost in the sauce. He says this: you are about to sleep with your ancestors, but this people, who Israel, will get up and offer themselves as prostitutes, zana, to foreign gods of the land where they're going. Well, didn't they supposed to do something to prevent them from being around these gods? They're supposed to do something. Do you remember what they were told to do? Anybody? Here it is. Let me show you what they were supposed to do that they didn't do. Let's start right here in verse number 7 of Deuteronomy, chapter number 7. Yahweh, your Elohim, is going to bring you into the land which you're to enter and take in order to take possession of it. He will expel many nations ahead of you: the Kiti, the Girgashi, the Emori, the Kanani, the Perizi, Kiwi, and the Yavusi. 7 nations bigger and stronger than you. When he does this, when Yahweh Elohim hands them over ahead of you and you defeat them, you are to destroy them completely. You are to destroy them completely. He says, do not make any covenant with them and show them no mercy. Don't intermarry with them. Don't give your daughter to his son, and don't take his daughter for your son. For he who the father-in-law will turn your children away from following me in order to serve other gods. And if this happens, the anger of Yahweh will flare up against you, and he will quickly destroy you. That's what Yah told them to do through Moshe. Now, no, treat them this way. Break down their altars. Smash their standing stones to pieces. Cut down their sacred poles and burn up their carved images completely. For you are a people set apart for Yahweh as your Elohim. Yahweh, your Elohim, has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be his own unique treasure. And Yahweh did not set his heart on you or choose you because you outnumbered more than any other people. On the contrary, you were the fewest of all people. Rather, it was because Yahweh loved you and because he wanted to keep the oath which he sworn to your ancestors. That's the reason why Yah chose us. Is because Yahweh loved us and because he wanted to keep his oath, the promise that he made, that he sworn to our ancestors, which is land and descendants, and him being our Elohim. Therefore, Yahweh brought us out with a strong hand, and he redeemed you from a life of slavery under the hand of Pharaoh. Okay? That's what he did. But let's get some more. So they didn't do this. They didn't do what Yah commanded them to do. You know why? Because they went and they made friends. You see? That's what happened. That's what happened. Let's read some more about what he says. Yah talks about these people when the people try to come against them in war, but more specifically, he's telling them in verse number 16, as for the towns of these people which Yahweh Elohim is giving you as an inheritance, because that's what he's talking about, these peoples, Yahweh is giving you as your inheritance, which is your land, you're not to allow anything that breathes to live. Well, you say, well, man, that's terrible. I want you to kill those Africans. Yeah. You must destroy them completely. He tells you who to destroy: the Kiti, the Imri, the Ka'anani, the Perizi, the Kiwi, and the Yebusi. Yahweh, your Elohim, has commanded you. Why? So they won't teach you. Because this is all about teaching. This is all about following. This is all about directing. If you marry somebody, they're going to teach your child to and move their heart to follow after their gods. This is about teaching. They're going to teach you, so they won't teach. I need you to get rid of them so they won't teach you to follow their abominable practices, like killing your kids. You do what they do for their gods. You know, look at the spiritists, the necromancers, the diviners, the astrologers, causing you to sin against Yahweh. I need you to go in and take everybody's life, like I commanded you. But guess what? A lot of people don't like this Elohim. See, this Elohim just said, I need you to go kill everybody. But this is the same Elohim that told us that, hey, these people are going to play the harlot. When you die, you lie down and go to sleep, these people are going to rise up and then they're going to go play a harlot. Okay, they're going to go and they're going to cut off and spread themselves. And this is going to affect everything with the gods of foreigners in the land where they go. There and among, they're going to forsake me. They're going to cut me off. They're going to forsake me. Well, Azavani, they're going to get rid of, they're going to forsake me. And they're going to break the covenant. They're going to break, here's the arrow again. These people are going to break and forsake me. Listen, and I'm the one who, he says, my covenant. That's why it's called Barithi, because the Barith is having to do with Yah's contract that he made with the children of Israel when they came out of Mitzrayim. That's what a Barith has to do with grain. It has to do what he's saying. If they don't do what he says, they don't get any rain. If they don't get any rain, they don't get any grain. Rain and grain, don't you get it? If they don't do it, then you're gone. Well, why would you say that? Why would you say rain and grain? Because I need you to understand something. Rain and grain are always going to go together. Rain and grain will always go together. Our Elohim is telling us straight to our faces all the time. Well, I'm not in the land, so it doesn't apply to me. But guess what? It applied to your ancestors. And because you're the children of those ancestors, I need you to understand something. Because we found out earlier today that rain has to do with Torah. Rain and Torah go together. They share the same root. Just like the rain points down in the direction Yah shoots that rain at the different times that he says. You're not to make for yourselves any idols, erect any carved statue, standing stone, or any place, any carved stone, anywhere in the land, in order to bow down to it. I am Yahweh. Keep my Shabbats. Revere my sanctuary. I'm Yahweh. If you live by my regulations, and you observe, meaning do my commandments, my mitzvot, and obey them, then I will provide the rain. This same root here has the same root as Torah, like we just went over. Rain and Torah are hand in hand. The Torah points you with the finger in a direction. The rain points in a direction to the land. The Torah is the rain that you need for you. You're the land. You're made from the earth. Just like the land needs rain, you need Torah. I will give the rain it needs in its season. That is a former rain, the latter rain, and the early rain. The land will yield its produce, and the trees in the field will yield their fruit. Your threshing time will extend until the grape harvest, and your grape harvesting will extend to the time of sowing seed. You will eat as much food as you want and live securely in your land, because food security is where it's at, people. If you and I follow the Torah, then you and I will yield produce. We will yield fruit of our body. We will yield wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Then you and I will have a harvest within ourselves. You see? And I will give shalom in the land, and you will lie down unafraid of anybody if you do what I say. So life for you, if you live, then you will get the rain you need. You need this. If you don't do it, then so what are you saying? The regulations are connected directly to the obedience of Israel. The rain is directly connected to the regulations and the commandments. If you go against the laws, the statutes, and commandments, I'm not going to give you the rain in this season. I'm not going to give it to you if you go against me. I've already told you this, and I'm going to tell you again, because I need you to understand what Elohim you serve. For some reason, you guys think somebody else gave it to you. You're claiming that I've blessed you. My blessings are in my land that I gave to you. But let me show you how my people, how they are. He says, I need you to hear this, you stupid, brainless people. Verse 21, Jeremiah 5. Who have eyes, but you don't see. You have ears, but you don't hear. Don't you fear me? That's the question. We learned that fear is following the Torah. Won't you tremble at my presence? Want your insides like you did when I showed up? I made the shore the limit for the sea. By decree, it cannot pass. Why is he mentioning this? Because he's telling you how much power he has. Its waves may toss, but to no avail. Although they roar, they cannot cross it. The sea is 1 gallon of water is 8 pounds. Could you imagine what the weight is that Yah says you can't go past there? But this people, what people? This people. Who he's talking about? Is he talking about the nations? Who's he talking about? He's talking about this people. Israel has a rebellious and a defiant heart, a mind. They have rebelled and they have gone. They don't say to themselves, let's fear Yahweh, our Elohim. They don't say this. Listen, who gives what? He gives, who gives the fall and the spring rains in season. That's why you should fear him. He reserves us the weeks assigned for harvest. Sukkot. Your crimes have overturned nature's rules. Your crimes and your sins have kept back good from you. Not this spiritual good that you and I have been taught about. Oh, I feel blessed. No, the good that Yah's talking about is a good that's associated with the rain. It's the rain in the season. It goes to the land because the grain and the goodness is the harvest. Your food for your stomach, because your stomach is your life. In Hebrew, Kai is life. Life is the stomach. You see? This is what Yah's talking about. And he says that we're stupid, and he said we're brainless, because if you were to understand it, the idea of allowing Yah to point us in a direction, let's direct our attention to Yahweh, the one who gives the fall and spring rains. But when you don't have this land in front of you, you don't know that your life is attached to the land, then you think you're blessed because you live in a different land where there's rain season, and sometimes there hasn't been any rain till just recently, but not enough to bring a harvest. And you and I are not the ones benefiting off the harvest. They're actually throwing food away right now. As we speak, they're destroying food. You're not in control of nothing. So we need to recalibrate and redirect our attention back to who is the one who gives all things, which is the one that you and I should fear, which is Yahweh. But we've been taken care of by our enemies. They're the ones who's been sticking the spoon in your mouth. So now that's the one that you trust. And that's the one that you fear. You fear men and not the living Elohim. They're going to break my covenant, which I made with them. They're going to arouse my anger against them in the day that I will forsake them. If they forsook me up here, right here, Wa'azaveni, if they do this to me, I'm going to what? Wa'azivetim, I'm going to forsake them. And I'm going to do something else. I'm going to hide. What? What am I going to hide from them? I'm going to hide my face from them. I'm going to have Panai. I'm going to hide my face. When I hide my face from you, what I'm saying to you is you won't get what you're supposed to be getting from me. You guys won't be laying down in safety, and neither will you have food security. You're going to have a whole bunch of troubles. And what you're going to have is a whole bunch of evil that's going to come upon you, because and he said that they shall be, meaning they will exist, because this word right here, 1961, a good year, means that they will exist to be devoured. The law call, I'm going to have them be devoured. And what's going to befall them? They're going to find, because matzah means to be found, they're going to find evils. Ra'oth, Raboth, Wazaroth. They're going to find evils and many troubles. This is what these people are going to get when Moshe goes to sleep. This is what's going to befall us. Evils, many evils. Raboth means extreme evils and troubles. Zaroth, Zar means to be put in a place of being pressed, being under extreme pressure. Ain't no evil like, the devil with an outfit on. He's talking about you're going to be pressed on every side. And they will say, this is what they're going to say. In the day that they have not, look, Halo Alki, Ain Elohei, the Bakirbi. What this has not this happened to us because our Elohim is not among us? He doesn't exist among us. And this is why all this stuff has come upon us. Well, we don't know the Hebrew. Tell us about it in English. Here's it in English. My anger will flare up and I will abandon them. I'm going to abandon them. Not that like the Christians told you, I'll never leave you or forsake you. He was talking to Yehoshua when he was about to go do the work that God told him. He did abandon him when he found out that somebody was in the camp that did something he said not to. They went out to fight a war and they got defeated. And he said, what happened? He said, there's somebody in the camp. Don't talk to me. Go talk to the camp. There's no way that Yah can be with us when somebody is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. He understands that we want to be close to him. He understands our cravings and our need and our desire. And it doesn't mean that he's not watching over us. But it means that you and I need to understand there is a clear difference when Yah is with us and when he's not with us. When he's with us, we can defeat the world. And you can stand up before anybody with no fear and know that he got your back. When he's with us, the sea will open up. But we're going around and saying he's with us. And the people around us are mocking us to this day. They might not say it to your face, but they're saying, where's their God at? Where's the God of the Hebrew people? Who still to this day is being lynched. Still to this day is being shot down. Still to this day has no rights. Still to this day, you're 3/5 of a human being. Still to this day, you're sick as a dog. How can you say that Yah is with you? Begging these people for a holiday. You better hear what he's saying today. My anger will flare up and I will abandon them and I'll hide my face from them. They will be devoured. Many calamities and trouble will come upon them. Then they will ask, haven't these calamities come upon us? Because Elohim isn't here with us. He's not. But I will be hiding my face from them because of all the evils they have done in turning to other gods. This is the #1 problem in Israel. The gods that surround us are the gods that teaches us how to think. When you're following a God, and I'm going to pause on this particular thing, I want to show you something. When we follow a God that is not our Elohim, we think in a line. We have a very linear thinking pattern like this. That's all we do. We start at this point and we just go all the way down and we never go anywhere else, just straight. Keep going down into the forever. It's forever. It's linear. When you follow the Elohim of Israel, he doesn't have you travel in a line. You're a linear thinker. Okay? The Elohim that we serve causes us to go in a cycle, in a circle. He'll take you to different destinations every time you turn around. You'll go from one Shabbat, then you go to your next Shabbat. You go from one Moedim to your next Moedim. You go from the next one to the next one. Different locations that he'll bring you. The Torah is not in a straight line. It's cyclical. So you'll begin over here in Genesis, and then you'll go around in your cycle, and you'll find your way to Exodus, and you'll find your way over to Leviticus, and you'll find your way, and you're going all the way around. Just like you would do with the sun. You understand? You go in circuits, circles. And every time you go around, you're learning more and more and more and more. You're learning the road. You're learning the direction. You're learning the path over and over and over again. Then you find yourself getting stronger and stronger. And you say, I'm familiar with that. I already know what that is. I've seen this before. You know how to walk it better. Other people are with you. And every time you turn around, Yah's putting more people on this cycle. And since you've been on the cycle for this long period of time, then you can show them how to walk it and which way to go. And they'll follow you. If they want to be a sheep, they'll follow the group because they like being together. You just keep going and going and going and going and going and going and going. On your cycle, you might start here and then you might die right here. You might get weak and you might not be able to continue the journey. But everyone else keeps going around in that cycle. Somebody does go to sleep. The cycle doesn't stop. You keep going and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going. Our lives are full of cycles. Our women have cycles for birth. Our children go through cycles, growing patterns and processes. Your mind, cycles, the land, cyclical, sowing and reaping and harvest, cultivating, cycles. The moon has a cycle, shows up, phases, gets full, then goes down again, increases and decreases, increases and decreases, rain cycles, heat cycles, learning cycles, strengthening cycles. It's all cyclical. So you have to get on the cycle. You have to start doing this. If you don't do this, then you're not following Yah. The path it's here. You got to stay on the path. You're going to hit Sukkot. It's going to be in the same spot that it was every single time. And you're going to get wiser and wiser and wiser to it. You're going to hit the Day of Atonement next week. On the 15th. On the Gregorian calendar. You're going to hit it. Same cycle every year. You're going to get better and better and better. You get on your Torah cycle. You're going to get better and better and better and better. The longer you walk with Yah, the greater your knowledge and understanding becomes of him and who he is. This is why he tells them after every 7 years, I want you to stop and I need you to give out the Torah to the community. Does it mean that you only wait 7 years to receive it? No, your parents are supposed to teach you every single day. He says, and when you're sitting at home, you need to tell your children about the Torah. When you're on a road, you need to tell your children about the Torah. When you raise up before you go to bed at night, you're supposed to tell your children about the Torah. That's why I get a hard time. Because I'm asking and I'm telling people, hey, listen, I want you to know. My kids will tell you, he's always about it. Because we have to be about it. You don't get to jump on and jump off. You're in it. Just understand that, Israel, you are in it. You're not going anywhere. So stop bucking against Yah and get on the cycle. And stay on it. And understand it. And guess what? On this cycle, you're going to find out some things. You're going to find out that number one, that Yah's not happy with us right now. Not right now. Just like I just showed you the cycle. Now I want to give you some refreshment. Since I'm so willing to tell you everything that we're doing wrong, let me tell you what he's going to do, because he's merciful. Yah's merciful. He is. Yah tells us even in his anger, because he says, I don't stay angry forever. Even in our cycle, our families went through a cycle with Yah. At one point in time, Israel has done these things to Yah. They abandoned him, okay? And we've been going through life. There's going to come a time when Yah says, okay, the punishment's over. Because he says at that time, it's a season. It's not arbitrary, like we would think, well, we have to do a certain amount of things first, and then he's going to do. No. There's coming a time. There's a time with everything in a season. Okay. So when we talk about, and I wish I had, do I have that? I thought for sure I would keep that. All right. So we know, sorry to go on another range here, but we have 7 festivals. Okay. And each one of those festivals, 3 of them are going to be in the springtime and 3 are going to be in the fall. Okay. 1 in the summer. Just about 7 of them. Okay. There's 7 of them. So Yah says, well, appointed times. I better yet say that. So Yah says, okay, I want you to meet me right here. And then here, I'm going to have you meet me right here. Then here, me and you going to meet again. And then we're going to meet again. And then we're going to meet again. Okay. So when Yah says, I'm going to take on what I've done because you guys have made me so angry, okay? And I'm very angry at Israel right now, okay? He said, I'm going to do this because you guys didn't do what I said. I'm going to get rid of, I'm not going to let you participate in this. Not the way you should be. You know, because every one of these festivals where offerings were required. And this is where a lot of different camps and people are talking about, oh, we can't keep the laws because we're not there. We can't keep the festival. We can't do this. We can't do it because we don't have all the offerings, because they're missing the point. They think it's just about the offerings. It's not just about the offerings. What it's about is this, is that Yah says, when I meet with you at certain seasons and certain times, at certain times, I'm going to let you know. Like, for example, I ask you right now, when did Yah release the children of Israel from their slavery? Somebody tell me.
Pesach.
Pesach, thank you. When did Yah give Israel the Torah? I mean, gave them the covenant. When was the covenant made? What's the name of it?
Shavuot.
Okay. Shavuot, meaning 7 sevens. Okay. Shavuot. Okay. I forgot how to spell it. When did Yah tell us he wants to meet with us and tabernacle month? What's the name of that? It's coming up.
Sukkot.
Sukkot. So we got the Sukkot. Okay. When Yah tells us that, he says that I want you to feel bad about what your ancestors did, and I need you to think about when I was going to kill everybody, and I didn't. What day is that? It's a Day of Atonement. What about the time when you bring your first fruits out of the ground? That after you just got to the land, I want you to remember that it's first fruits. It's called, well, first fruits in English, but in Hebrew it's called bikarim. Okay. So you got your first fruits. Okay. I also want you to blow a shofar to let you know that the Day of Atonement's coming. And it's called Yom Teruah. Okay. So Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and Yom Teruah. Okay. 1, 2, first fruits. Forgive my writing. I'm using my finger on a pad on the computer. It's very difficult. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's the next one? You guys should know this. When I fed you guys in the wilderness, right? When you first left out, what did I give you? I gave you matzah. Okay. You have no unleavened bread. Okay. All these times are times in which represent things that I've done for you. So I'm not asking you, this is not on an accident. Okay. This one here Pesach deals with when I redeemed you. This means that I fed you, right, with unleavened bread. Why I brought you out, to remind you that that's what I brought you out. The first fruits is telling you when you go into the land, because when you're in the wilderness, you didn't have any first fruits. That's when I brought you into the land. I told you to bring your first fruits to me in chapter number 26 of Deuteronomy. Shavuot is when I gave you the Torah to instruct you on how to live before you go into the land. Yom Teruah is an acknowledgement of that I'm going to bring the Day of Atonement for you. Okay. The Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. Here reminds you of what happened to Israel when I was going to wipe you off the face of the earth, and where I showed you mercy, and where I had to cleanse you from that sin of idol worship. And last but least is Sukkot. Sukkot tells you that I live with you in the wilderness. I tabernacle with you. You lived in little tabernacles, and I stayed in a tent. Okay. Now, I'm going to remind you that what happened? Okay. I'm going to remind you that with these things in place, where's this? Stop the share. Got messing my thought up. I'm going to remind you that these times of these moedims, these appointments are significant. Okay. They're very significant. All right. And what I want you to understand is that if I told you that every 7 years, you're going to go on the year of the Shemitah, the year of release. And I showed you that it is at the time of what Moedim, what appointed time? What time?
Sukkot.
Sukkot. I want everybody to pay attention because this is about to reveal something to you. So I told you that Sukkot is the time where I need you to do the for release. Okay. So based on right here, Yah says Shemitah is release. To release a Hebrew slave. That's release. That's when I'm going to release you. That's when you're supposed to be releasing, and releasing people is on this time at this festival. Correct? We're going to move quickly. That's it. Let me show you something. Yahweh, your Elohim, is right there with you, meaning when he comes and gets them as a mighty savior, he will rejoice over you and be glad. He will be silent in his love. He will shout over you with joy. So Yah's going to do something. And this is what he says. This is the words of the Creator. I will what? What is he going to do? Somebody tell me. It's right here. I will what? Can you see my screen? Can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
What does it say? I will do what? I will what?
Gather.
Okay, gather. I just need some class participation. I'm going to gather. Okay. And so he told us that to gather people every 7 years, correct? At a time of release. So he said, I'm going to gather those of yours who grieve. And what are they grieving over? It's right here. The appointed feast. What's appointed feast? Is Sukkot an appointed feast? Yes, it is. And why are they grieving over this feast? Because they can't bring anything that they want to bring, like the food, the grains, the fruit, the olive oil. They can't bring the animals. They can't do anything. And because of that, they're bearing a burden of reproach because they cannot keep them. Okay. He says, when that time comes, the time of what? An appointment. It's an appointed time. I will deal with all those who oppress you, and I will save her who is lame and gather all who are driven away, and make them whose shame spread over the earth an object of praise and renown. The name for praise and renown has to do with a person's name and how they're being looked upon. He says, when that time comes, because this is an appointed time. Okay. So let me just put it in a different time, and I won't highlight everything. I'm just going to highlight what's most important. I'm going to show you here. Appointed feast is for an appointed time. Because that time right there is my 8, and it means appointment. Here's another. When that time comes, so in this time, he's talking about when this time comes, I will bring you in. When this time comes, I will gather you. On the what? On the appointed time. When this time comes, when that time, the appointed time comes, I will what? I will gather you. And I will make you an object of fame and praise among all the peoples of the earth. And I will restore your what? I'm going to restore your fortunes. You understand? I'm going to restore your fortunes. What is Israel's fortunes? Israel's fortunes is the land. Israel's fortunes is all that appertains to the land. It's about the land. Do you understand? So again, appointed time is a time of where you and I are feeling a reproach because we are being enslaved. When that time comes, what time? The appointed time comes, I will deal with you, or deal with all those who oppress you. I will save her, and I will gather her. So gather for and salvation and saving are one and the same. I'm going to gather her who was driven away, and those who spread over the earth an object of praise and renown. At that time, at an appointed time, I will bring you in. And at that time, I will gather you. What time? When will I gather you? When I will do this? And at an appointed time. So if Sukkot is a time of gathering and bringing in harvest, Yah is using Sukkot to let us know that that's the time that he's going to gather us. Yah is going to gather Israel at an appointed time. That's why he keeps using this word at that time, at that time, at that time, at that time. I will gather, I will gather, I will gather, I will gather, I will gather. Sukkot, restore your fortunes, which is Sukkot. And Yah says he's going to shout over us and rejoice over us, the time of shouting and rejoicing as a time of the harvest. You understand? I'm going to restore you. Okay. So listen to this. So you see that, right? Let me show you something else. In the book of Zechariah, chapter number 14, I want you to put the pieces together. Listen carefully. In Zechariah, chapter number 14, and Zechariah means that Yah remembers. Okay, that's what his name means. Yah remembers. Yah says this. Then Yahweh will be king over the whole world. Okay. In verse number 9. And on that day, Yahweh will be the only one, and his name will be the only name. Period. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and skip down. It says, verse 11, when people live there, the curse will be broken. Yerushalayim will live in safety. Yahweh will strike all the peoples who made war against Yerushalayim in a plague, and their flesh will eat flesh rots away while they're standing on their feet, and their eyes will rot away in their sockets, and their tongues will rot away in their mouth. But that's not the point I wanted to read to you. This is what he says. Finally, everyone remaining of all the nations who came to attack Jerusalem will go up every year to worship the king, who is Yahweh Zavaoth. And they will keep the festival of what? Yes, Sister Pam. Yah is talking to us, and he's telling us he's going to come and get us. And the time that Yahweh is going to come and get Israel is at the time of Sukkot, because it's a time of gathering, where he talks about those who were scattered, I will gather. I'm going to gather those who are scattered. And the only time that Yah ever does any gathering on anything is at this particular time. So Yah is going to come and gather Israel at this time.
Dad, I'm trying to make bed.
Is it this Sukkot? I don't know. Is it next Sukkot? Who knows? But it's whatever time it is going to be at Sukkot. And the reason why it's going to be at Sukkot is because that's the appointed time of gathering that which has been scattered. We're the seed that's been scattered. Now he says, I'm going to gather you. Now listen what he says. Whoever doesn't come up on this time. Hey, could you put your phone, someone? I'm getting feedback. Make sure you're on mute unless you want to ask a question. If any of the families of the earth who does not go up to Jerusalem to worship this King Yahweh, what will happen? No rain will fall on them. See, no rain is going to fall on them. If the family of Egypt doesn't go up, if they refuse to come on Sukkot, they will not have any annual overflow. Moreover, there will be a plague which Yahweh Elohim will strike the nations if they don't go up to keep the festival of Sukkot. So why is the festival of Sukkot so important? This Egypt's punishment and the punishment of all the nations that won't go up to keep the festival of Sukkot, because Yah is directing the attention of the nations to Sukkot, to make the nations of Sukkot remember what? That's the time that I came and got my people. That's the time I'm going to come and get my people. If you don't, because that's the time that I'm going to gather my people. That's why I'm telling whoever remains of the families, because if they don't come up on this day is so significant to him, that the festival of Sukkot is so significant that if anybody doesn't come up and get it, they'll have no rain. And he will starve them to death, and they will have famine, because that will be their punishment because of the festival of Sukkot. And listen what it says. When that day comes, what day comes? It'll be written on the bells of the horses worn by Yahweh, consecrated to Yahweh, in the cooking pots. The house of Yahweh will be holy, and sprinkling bowls before the altar. Everyone cooking pot in Yerushalayim and Yehuda will be consecrated. And whoever offers sacrifices will come and take them and use them to stew their meat. And when that day comes, there will no longer be any merchants in the house of Yahweh. He's letting them know that if you don't come on this in particular day, you're going to be destroyed. You're going to be punished. So every time Yah does something, and I need you to understand this, when he killed everyone on Pesach, because that's what it represents, the death and the release of Israel from bondage. And he tells us in the book of Jeremiah that when I come, it's not going to be like, no one's going to ever mention pay. They're not going to mention what I brought you out of Mizraim. Yah is going to always have us keep Pesach. Even in the book of Ezekiel, he says that they're going to keep the Pesach. They're going to always keep the Sukkot. They're going to keep Sukkot too. I'm trying to let you know that every significant event that Yah does is on the day that he tells us. It's for a reason. It's not on accident. It's not on accident that Yah mentions this. Let me show you something. Do you guys remember when Moshe went to go get the children of Israel? And he told them, Pharaoh was not willing to let them go. He didn't want to send them away. Okay. And he asked, and listen what he says. Moshe and Aharon were brought back to Pharaoh again. He said to them, go worship Yahweh, your Elohim. But who exactly is going? And guess what he said? Because he was trying to send them out. And Pharaoh was like, you can't take certain people. Moshe said, we will go out with who? We are going to go out with everybody. We're going to go out with the young. We're going to go out with the old. We're going to go out with our sons. We're going to go out with our daughters. And we're going to go out with our flocks and our herds. We must celebrate a what? A feast to Yahweh. Question for you. When Israel went out, did they celebrate a feast to Yahweh? No. They never celebrated a feast to Yahweh. They actually made a golden calf and called that the Feast of Yahweh. You see? So Yah's telling us, listen to me, Sukkot is the time of gathering. If you look at what Yah says all the time, I'm going to gather Israel. The only time that Yah has already told Israel to gather anything is through the fall season, which has something to do with Sukkot. The reason why he's asking us to go ahead and we're coming up upon the Day of Atonement is to be able to purify yourself from Yahweh's perspective and say, I'm sorry for all that I've done. I'm sorry that our ancestors did this. Then after you go through the Day of Atonement, it's just a few days later that you're celebrating and you're rejoicing before Yahweh. So the shouting and the joy and the jubilation is going to come when Yah gathers Israel. That's why we keep Sukkot, not because we have the 70 offerings of the bulls or the 98 offerings of the lambs or the 14 offerings of the rams and the 7 offerings of the goats for the sin offering. The reason why he's putting this in front of us is so you and I can prepare to meet him and to know when he's coming. I'll literally tell you right now, I'll put my life on that. I'll put my life on that. Because every holiday or every Moedim that he does is reflective of what he's done for Israel. So when Moshe told Pharaoh this, when he was delivering them out of their bondage, he says, we need to go and have a festival. They never went out there and had a festival. Was he lying? No. When Yah brings Israel, he wants to have a festival. He wants them to know that I'm your Elohim. So look at it again. Zechariah 14. He says, if they don't come for Sukkot, why does he want them to celebrate? And why did he tell them that if they don't come, then he's going to punish them? Because that's the time in which Yahweh is going to do what he's going to do for Israel, because it's a time of gathering Israel. That's when you and I are going to be gathered. Because it's an appointed time. Yah doesn't make mistakes and he doesn't do things randomly. So you know how in the Christian faith, you're waiting for the rapture and it could be any day? No, our time is going to be the time of Sukkot. It's going to be during that season because that's when we do our gathering. So it makes sense when Yah talks about gathering Israel, he's talking about gathering. He's talking about Sukkot. He says, you guys are grieved and you suffer reproach. And you guys' name are being spoken bad because you can't keep the time. You want to, but you can't. So that's what Yah is saying. And you look at the Shemitah. The Shemitah is a time of release, which is every 7 years on what festival? On Sukkot. Sukkot is a time of release. Yah has mentioned Sukkot before this. When Yah mentions Sukkot in chapter number 23 of Leviticus, he never mentions the Shemitah. He never mentions it. So why didn't he mention it there? Because he wanted to mention it because that was the day that Moshe was telling him, hey, I can't go any further with you, but let me let you know something before I do go. So this last chapter 31, 32, 33, 34 into the end, not the whole Deuteronomy is not important. The whole entire book of Deuteronomy is important. All of it's important. But more specifically, when he says, when I'm about to leave, he's telling Israel what is going to happen to them. And he mentions this. Because remember, he says, when I lie down, you guys are going to go and serve your other gods. You guys are going to act a fool. And they did. So he's telling them, when Shemitah comes, it's a time of release. That is not on accident. That's on purpose. He mentions like I said, and I'll show it to you. In the book of Leviticus, chapter number 23, he mentions all the festivals right here in 23. And not one time did he ever mention Shemitah. Not one time. Shemitah was never introduced into chapter number 15. And that was talking about the land and the people and so forth and so on. And so in this in particular time, he's telling them this. You wave the sheaf offering. Okay, that's the first fruits from that day on, the rest lamb. Okay. Okay, so listen. Tell the people of Israel in the 7th month on the first month of the first month. Okay. Tell the people of Israel in the 7th month, the first of the month, is to be for you a day of complete rest of remembering, a holy convocation announced by the blast of a shofar. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Some people say you can't blow the shofar, but that's not true because Gideon blew the shofar. Ehud blew the shofar. They weren't priests. He's talking about the shofar. Now, in terms of the silver trumpets, those are the only ones that the priest could blow, but everyone else could blow a shofar at any time. Do not do any, and the shofar was blown on Rosh Kodesh. Do not do any kind of ordinary work and bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. So we're missing the offering piece. Yahweh said to Moshe, on the 10th day of the 7th month, which is Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement, you are to have a holy convocation. So I want to let you know that this 15th, I want to have us to have a holy convocation. Holy convocation is a gathering of people coming together on this time to begin our fast, okay? Because that's when the fast is going to begin. So at 7 o'clock on the 15th, I'm going to be online. You can come if you like. I want to convoke with you. I want to gather with you, and I want to inspire us as we go through our time of atonement. We're going to deal a little bit more about that. You are to deny yourselves, meaning your stomach, and you are to, and with anything, any fun and all that kind of stuff, you are to bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. We don't have an offering. All we have is the fruit of our lips. You are not to do any kind of work on that day because it is Yom Kippur, a day of covering, a day of atonement. And you and I will be talking about the Day of Atonement on the Day of Atonement before Yahweh your Elohim. Anyone who does not deny himself on this day will be cut off. Okay. And anyone who does any kind of work on the day, I will destroy from among his people. And you are not to do any kind of work. It is a permanent regulation through all your generations, no matter where you live. It's permanent. Okay. Where you live. It will be for a Shabbat of complete rest, and you're to deny yourselves. You are to rest on your Shabbat. Okay. From evening of the 9th day until the evening of the following evening. Okay. So then Yahweh said to Moshe, tell the people of Israel on the 15th day, which is 5 days later, is the 7th month, is a Feast of Sukkot for 7 days to Yahweh. And then he goes on, he talks about the first day is to be a holy convocation. You don't do any kind of ordinary work. 7 days, you're to bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. On the 8th day, you're to bring a holy convocation, or to have one, and to bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. It is a day of public assembly. Do not do any kind of ordinary work. These are the designated times. Now, at this time, he never mentioned at this time, Leviticus, he never mentions the Shemitah. The Shemitah doesn't get introduced into Deuteronomy. So when he mentions the Shemitah at the end of his life, and he associates it with, Yah told him to tell about the Shemitah on Sukkot. Why? Because Yah's letting us know that on the time of your release is going to be on Sukkot. And because it's on Sukkot, and I made it known, if the nations don't come up on Sukkot, I'm going to punish them. You need to rejoice, Israel, because your release is coming. You need to rejoice because you're going to be set free and you're going to go back to your Elohim. You need to rejoice. And if you and I don't understand this, the nations will understand it when they don't show up for Sukkot. You see, because our release is associated with gathering and joy and celebration, which that's the actual celebration of the ingathering of all the fruits and the vegetables. Why? Why is Yah telling us this? Oh, you want to know why? Okay, let me give you something else before you leave. I got a few moments. Let me show you why this is happening. I told you the Torah is raining, right? And I told you that Yah is raining the Torah upon right now on us. And that's what he's doing. But let's see what Yah wants to do, because Yah is the greatest agriculturalist and the greatest farmer that the earth has ever seen. He's invented it. So now he's going to tell us why and what he's going to do for Israel. Israel in chapter number 44 says this. He says, now listen. Listen to this. Listen, Yaakov. Hey, my servant, Israel, whom I've chosen. Thus said Yahweh, who made you. I formed you in the womb, and I will help you. Don't be afraid, Yaakov, my servant, Yeshurun. Yeshurun is a nickname to mean the upright one, whom I have chosen. Guess what I'm going to do for you? I'm going to pour out water on a thirsty land. Yay! Streams on the dry ground. I will pour out my spirit on your descendants, my blessing on your offspring. Okay? They will spring up among the grass like willows and like riverbanks. And guess what somebody gonna say because of this water? I belong to Yahweh. And another will be called by the name of Yaakov. Yet another will write, he belongs to Yahweh. And he'll adopt the surname of Israel. Thus saith Yahweh, the Israel's king and redeemer. Guess what he says? I'm the first and I'm the last. And besides me, there is no other Elohim. Who is like me? Let him speak out. Let him show me clearly what's been happening since I set up an eternal people. Let them foretell future signs and events. Don't be frightened. Don't be afraid. Didn't I tell you this long ago? I foretold it. You are my witnesses. Is there any other Elohim besides me? There is no other rock. I know of none. Period. Yah is going to do something with Israel. And it's going to be marvelous in our eyes. Yah says, I'm going to have mercy on whom I'm going to have mercy. And he tells Moshe, I'm going to do something wonderful that the world has never seen. And that is, I'm going to gather all the people who have been scattered all over the world, and I'm going to bring them to myself. I'm going to gather Israel. I'm going to gather my sons and my daughters. I'm going to gather them to myself. Hallelujah. Praise be to the Holy One of Israel. What does he say? Because he's only interested in what he has to say. We don't care about what anybody else is talking about, because what they're talking about means nothing, because they can't gather us, and they're the one who scattered us, and they're neither the one who could gather us. This is what Yahweh says. Oh yeah, but I will pity. Listen, I will pity. Yeah. After, let's just start right here. Yahweh said, name them Lo-Ami, not my people, because you're not my people. I will not be your Elohim. He's talking to Israel. Nevertheless, the people of Israel will number as many as the grains of the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or counted. So at that time, so that time will what? Again, that time will what? That time will come, like we saw in Zephaniah. That time will come. The time will come when instead of being told you are not my people, it will be said of them, you are the children of the living Elohim. Has anyone called us the children of the living Elohim? No. Then the people of Yehuda and the people of Israel will be what? Gathered. And what? They will appoint themselves one leader, and they will go up out of the land. For that will be a great day. You see? So Yah's talking to Israel. That will be a time in which Yahweh is going to gather us together. It's about Yah gathering Israel together. Okay? It's about him gathering. And the only time that Yah told Israel to gather, and that he's going to gather them, will be at the time of Sukkot. Your gathering time is coming, and it's going to be in the fall season. Hopefully, it's sooner than later. Oh boy. Here we go. Jeremiah chapter number 30, 31, 31. Someone's favorite. They like to go to Jeremiah 31 and talk about us getting a new covenant, which God doesn't say it's new. He says it's a time of renewing the covenant. Come on, what's going on? Computer's acting, doesn't want to share. Okay, here you go. Actually, the beginning of this teaching begins in verse number 29, I believe. Oh, was it this? At this time, let's see, it's 27 here. The days are coming, says Yahweh, when I will sow. Look at this, agricultural terms. So Yah's the one, he's the farmer. The house of Israel and the house of Judah with seed of humans and the seed of animals. And at that time, see, there's an appointed time. Just as I used to watch over them with intent to uproot out of the ground, break down, overthrow and destroy and do harm, because there's a time for that. So then I will watch over them to build and to plant, says Yahweh. When those days come, right, they will neither say, no longer say, the fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge, meaning that the children are still receiving the punishment for their father's actions. Yah says when that day comes, they're not going to say that. Rather, each will die for his own sin. Going back again, that Yah's not holding the parents responsible for the children and the children for the parents. Everyone who eats sour grapes, his own teeth will be set on edge. You do something, you're going to be the one who's going to face the consequences, either death or exile or whatever is coming to you. Here the days are coming, says Yahweh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehudah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their fathers. It's not new, it's renewed. I'm going to restore it. It's not going to be like the covenant I made with their fathers on the day that I took them by the hand. So what is it going to be like? What is it going to be like? Well, he's saying when I came and made that covenant with them, they all ran and they were afraid, and then I sent them back to their tents. The way that I'm going to do it now is, instead of me having it written down and having then handed it to them through a man, he says, I'm going to do it differently, because for their part, they violated my covenant. Even though on my part, I was a husband to them, says Yahweh. For this covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says Yahweh. I will put my instructions, not my covenant. I will put my instructions. See, people don't like to read that. They think the Torah is the same word as a covenant. It's not. It's instructions. I'm going to put my instructions within them, and I'm going to write it on their minds. Okay, not their hearts, their minds. And I will be their Elohim, and they will be my people when I do this. So if Yahweh's Torah instructions are not inside of us and they're not written on our minds, then Yah's telling us right now that, listen, our closeness is not there yet. When I do this, you and I are going to be close. I'm going to be your God, or your Elohim, and you will be my people. And so because of this, no longer any of them will teach his fellow community member, because the Torah instruction has to do with teaching. So any fellow community member or his brother know Yahweh, because when you know Yahweh, you'll know him for yourself, because all will know me, from the least of them to the greatest. The least is the youngest to the oldest. That's what it means here. I'm not in like who's the poorest versus the richest. He says from the babies all the way to the top, because I will forgive all their wickedness and remember their sins no more. Period. So that's what it is. You and I are going to be regathered to Yah as he has stated. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. Yes. He's going to do that for us. Praise be the Holy One of Israel. Praise be to the Holy One of Israel. Praise be to the Holy One of Israel. Yeah. Why? Why is Yah telling us this? Here you go. Same chapter. For here's what Yahweh says: sing with joy for Yaakov. Shout. Shout for the chief of nations. We're the chief of the nations. Proclaim your praise and say, Yahweh, you have saved your people, the remnant of Israel. Look, I'm bringing them from the land of the north, and I'm gathering them from the far ends of the earth. Among them, there are blind and lame, and women and children, and women in labor. All together is a vast throng returning here. And they're not going to come laughing and joking and playing around. So how they're going to come back? They will come weeping. And they're going to be praying as I bring them back. I will lead them by streams of water on smooth paths so that they won't stumble. Why? For I'm a father to Israel. I'm a father to Israel. And Ephraim is my firstborn. And meaning that Ephraim is the one that was conferred the blessing of firstborn, because Yaakov took his hands and he put it on Ephraim and conferred the right of they're supposed to went to Joseph, to his son, his youngest son. So he's telling nations, hear the word of Yahweh. Proclaim it in the coastlands. He who has scattered Israel is what? Gathering Israel and guarding him like the shepherd like of his flock. You see? Do you guys see that? We're going to be ransomed. He's going to ransom from those whose hands were too strong for him. See? Yah's going to gather Israel. And then he's going to, guard us like that. He's going to protect us. But we have to go through our process. And there's coming a time when it's ending. And I believe, and as I've been shown in the Torah, that it is going to be in the fall season. It's going to be in Sukkot. Because the Shemitah is the clue, and the festival is the clue, and it's an appointed time. Rejoice, Israel! Your Elohim plans on delivering you. I could go somewhere else where he shows you he went to go look for the grapes and he saw the grapes and it's like, oh, should I destroy this? When would you destroy something? Oh, when you're doing the harvest. When you're going through the harvest and you see something that has juice and you say, oh, I'm not going to destroy it. I'm gonna hold on to that one. Oh, you saw some juice left in it, don't destroy it. It's still good. Don't destroy it. When you make that determination? When you're doing harvesting. That's what he says in Jeremiah. I'm going to destroy some of you, but not all of you. And the ones who have the juice, oh, you need to hear what I'm about to tell you. Where does the juice come from? From the grapes. The juice comes from the water. And where's the water come from? The sky. And what do we know what water is? The water is the Torah. So if the Torah is coming down and it's hitting you and you're absorbing the Torah, you will then become fruitful and you'll be able to yield and you'll be fruitful and Yahweh will go ahead and harvest you. And then when he goes to do his harvest, he'll go through and cut and he'll see which one of these grapes, if these grapes don't have no juice in it and it's dry and ain't doing that, I'm cutting that off. That's why he says, I'm going to cut you away from your people. If you listen to the Torah, you will obey the Day of Atonement. You won't be coming up with excuses. You just do what he says. That's what it just all goes down to, obedience to the Torah. That's how you're going to be fruitful. The Torah is water. It is teaching you how to grow. And if you don't grow, then he comes and he sees nothing on you, boom, cut you off. You're gone. That's how it works. So when he talks about cut off, he ain't talking about I'm just going to kill you. I'm just going to cut you off. And you won't have any more life source. I'm going to cut you off from the family. I'm going to cut you off from the vineyard. I'm going to cut you off from the cycle. I'm cutting you off. Do you want to be a branch? You don't want to bear any fruit? You didn't want to receive the Torah? You didn't want to accept it? I'm cutting you off. You don't want to keep the Shabbats like I told you? I'm cutting you off. Because you're not bearing any fruit. That's just the way it is. Yah is into agriculture. And that's why everything he tells us is about agriculture. I hope you guys had a wonderful Shabbat lesson today, because I did. And he's really letting us know. Anyone, any questions before we close out?
Yes, I do. For the 15th, so is it starting the sundown till the next day we don't work?
Yeah, so what it is, it's on the 15th, which is I forgot what the date
Wednesday?
is.
I think Wednesday.
Okay, well, yeah, so Wednesday evening,
Okay.
from when the sun goes down to when the sun goes down on the following day, there is absolutely no work whatsoever. It is a consecrated day. It is considered a Shabbat, and Yah says, do not do any work on it, because I want you to remember my mercy that I showed to you. And I'm going to go through, and then that's where I'm going to cleanse you from all your transgressions that you've been doing that was been unintentional. If you decided to commit murder or adultery and all that kind of stuff, there is no sacrifice for those things. There's nothing available for that. If you deliberately went against me, that's different. But if you have your little problems, like Dawid does, where he could have done more for me, or he could have studied more, he looked at some things that was a waste of his time, and he got unclean, but just based on being in an environment he's in and so forth. And he said some things that maybe he shouldn't have said. And he's still learning. Because I don't ever want you guys to, I want you to, if anything you get from the lesson today, understand this. Yah is letting Israel know that Israel is always going to be learning. No one can ever learn and not learn, and that's it. And when we just read in Jeremiah, he's telling us that you're always going to be in a learning cycle. As long as you're following Yah, you're always going to be learning. Always. You understand? None of us is ever going to hit that plateau where we're like, I'm done. No. Christianity guarantees you're done. You're still delivering. You don't have to learn nothing. You don't have to do nothing, because it's not about learning. It's not about education. It's not about teaching anybody anything. Now that's all done away with, and it's a one stamp and you're done. Just go through the process, get your stamp and your mark, and move on. And then you don't have nothing to worry about. That is totally contradictory to the Torah. The Torah is about learning. That's why there's a shepherd staff there. It's because it's always used to guide, lead, and direct, to push and pull us and to prod us, for us to always walk on the path that Yahweh has directed us. So this is not a religion. This is about people who are always interested in learning, people who is always interested in going to the next phase. So yes, Sister Jenny, it's about us coming together on that time. And when the sun goes down, I'll be on the 17th. I'm going to be on, I think it was the 15th. I'm sorry. Why did I say 17th? The 15th, I'm going to be on at 7 o'clock. Okay. And then I'm going to talk about the Day of Atonement. We're going to talk about atonement. We're going to talk about transgression. We're going to talk about what is sin. We're going to talk about all that kind of stuff. So we'll know about when we go into the following day, when we don't have any food from that evening until the next evening, you'll be able to meditate on everything that we've been talking about. Okay. So it's a time of convocation. So we're going to gather on that evening, and then on the next day, at the evening at 7 o'clock again, before the sun goes down, we're going to meet again before we end our fast. So right before we start our fast, and right before we end our fast, we're gonna gather together, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about what we experienced and those types of things. Okay. So he says it's actually a Torah mitzvah to convocate, to convoke, meaning to gather together, to come to assemble ourselves. So we have the ability to do so. Of course, we don't have a building, but yet we're here. We can still assemble ourselves together and be of the one voice, and let Yah speak to us and tell us through his Torah what he wants to say to us. So that's the purpose of doing that. Okay. So on the 15th of September, when the sun at 7 o'clock, the sun goes down like at 8 or something. So I'm going to be preparing us to go into our fast, and we'll talk about that. And then we're going to go, and then you're going to go through your fast. And then while you're in your fast on 7 o'clock the following day, you and I are going to meet again, and we're going to gather again, and we're going to talk about it. And this is what Yah's command is. If you want to meet with someone else, you can. You don't have to be obligated. Wherever you go, you need to be somewhere and listening to somebody talking about what Yah's talking about. With me, it's different because you get me live. Other people, you do a video, you don't get to ask any questions. That's the reason why you should come to class, because you can ask questions, and then we can look at it together. I might have the answer, I might not have the answer. Okay. So that's what Yah is asking of us. Okay. So we can get through that. All right. Then I have some suggestions. When we go into our Day of Atonement, Yah wants, one of the things that I do, if you're new to it, you never done it before, I want to give you some hints on how to get through it, not so you don't suffer, because you're going to suffer regardless. You're going to have some hunger pains, and I got to teach you how to get through them. You're going to be able to, I want you to eat a certain way before you go into your fast. So your body will be able to make adjustments. Those who are on medication, and you have to take your food to do it, then take your food with your medicine. If you have medication that you have to take that medication, especially if it has to do with, your heart or something, whatever it is. But those of us who are not on those things, then, we have to go through what we got to go through, period. And that's it. There's no question. And it's because we understand. And that's why I'm going to teach you about why Because a lot of times we ask people to do stuff, but they don't know why they're doing it. Why am I doing this? I'm going to tell you the reason why. Okay. That night, before we do it, I'm going to explain. I've said it before in some teachings, but I'm really going to get down to it. And I'm going to really let us know that this is the reason why. And you'll be like, okay, I accept it. I want to do, you would want to do it because you'll be like, okay, this is what Yah asked, and this is what the situation was. And hey, I won't, because I don't want to be that person. I don't to do. Okay. So that's coming up. So let me see. We have someone who says very good. Oh, Toto Rabah. Yeah, thank you. Koti Camp. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Any other questions? Anything about the lesson? Anything that anybody want to contribute? Just say anything? No? Okay. No matter if you did, if you didn't, I still love you. You know, I'm not gonna give you a bad grade. You guys are not good students. You guys don't want to be. Is anybody learning anything? Baruch atah Yahweh, Eloheinu, Malech haolam, Yasar or Uvarei Koshek. Oh, say shalom, Uvarei heth akol. That is to say, blessed are you, Yahweh, our Elohim. You're the king of the world. He's forming the light and he's creating darkness. He's making peace. And he's creating all things. Hallelujah. Praise the Holy One of Israel. May your Shabbat be filled with love and filled with mercy and filled with kindnesses. And may you continue through your journey and walking with Yah today. You studied today. Now it's time for you to get some rest, lay down, refresh yourselves, eat some cheese, eat some fruits and some crackers. Who knows? The Holy One of Israel. Because next week we're going to go into the death cycle where we're going to afflict, you're going to afflict yourself on this in particular time. And it's going to be okay, but it's necessary. You'll understand, you'll appreciate it. You'll look forward to it. I got to get your mind wrapped around it though, you know, so you accept it mentally, then you'll be fine. Okay. With that, I say Shabbat Shalom to each and every last one of you. Hallelujah.
Toda Shabbat Shalom.
Toda.